What's up, everyone? Today we're taking a look at the first figure in the MOTUC Classics line, the character that, depending on how you look at things, started it all for the Masters of the Universe Classics canon and storyline. We're taking a look at King Grayskull. Okay, let's take a quick look at packaging, and I know in the other MOTUC Classics reviews I've said I'm not going to do packaging, but for King Grayskull here, this is a little bit different because he does have a slight change to his packaging. So he's got the standard MOTUC Classics mailer box. His name does say Powers of Grayskull down on the bottom. The actual figure itself, however, has a bit of a difference in the packaging in that instead of the normal lightning bolts in the white that come down the bubble, he instead has this blue lightning that signifies him breaking the Sword of He apart, which is part of his backstory. And then we've got the Powers of Grayskull logo down there. We've got the MOTUC bricks for the Castle Grayskull. We got the original bubble that shows up on any reissue figures, because this is a reissue because his original figure was from San Diego exclusive. And on the back we've got an assortment of other characters as well as his bio. So let's pull him out and take a look. All right, here he is out of the package. And first of all, this character is the reissue figure. This is the one that came on the standard packaging. It's not the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive figure, which was the original figure in the beginning of the MOTUC Classics line. So there are some differences. I don't have that figure to compare against, but I know a general idea of what's different about it, and we can talk about them. So depending on, you know, what you consider to be canon now, or what storyline you follow in terms of MOTUC, King Grayskull is, or can be, the original quote-unquote He-Man. He is the one who has the Sword of He to begin with. He breaks it in two to make the two halves of the Power Sword, and he is the one who puts the powers of He-Man in Castle Grayskull to be guarded by the Sorceress. So he's a pretty pivotal character. He does appear in the 2000X MYP show. I think he's only in one episode, and he's the ancestor of King Randor and Adam. So he does have some history no matter how you look at it. And he's a pretty cool figure, and I really like the design of this guy. So let's go over him. So he's got the standard MOTUC buck, and he was the original figure. So this is where the buck comes from. You know, He-Man came after King Grayskull. So we've got some changes to the figure in terms of paint and just some variations of the design. So one of the things that was, I think, a problem on the original figure is that his eyes were kind of red, just like the same issue with the original He-Man figure. It was kind of like he got stung by a bee almost. The cape was a different color. It was brown, and it wasn't removable. And some of the other accents, armor pieces, I think were a different color as well. I don't believe that the cloak was flocked either. And this part here is flocked. It's fuzzy. His hair was a different color as well too, and I believe the skin tone was slightly different as well. What we have here, I think, is the better figure in terms of just overall presentation. So I'm going to pop the cape off real quick, and we're going to look at that on its own. It's just red. It's a molded plastic. It looks like it's tattered, and then it has this kind of woolly, upper portion to it that sits on his shoulders, and this is flocked, just like like a vintage figure from the original line. You would have seen flocked stuff back in the 80s. So that's a nice welcome change. Now, as far as the figure itself goes, he is a standard MOTUC Classics figure. So let's go over articulation real quick. His head does move side to side. His hair gets in the way quite a bit. This part in particular, the back, it's very rigid. He cannot really move his head at all. The articulation is there. You can't do anything with it. We've got joints that hinge and rotate, so normal stuff. Bicep swivel. We have got a single jointed elbow. We have got wrist rotation. There is no hinge, as is the case with most MOTUC Classics. We have got an ab crunch. He goes over a little bit. He goes back decent, and then we've got, there should be waist swivel there, but this figure is, old at this point. I'm not going to try to break him. We've got legs that go out about what you would expect for a MOTUC Classics figure, standard. We got thigh swivel, so we got rotation there. We've got legs that go all the way out, just about that far. This loincloth, and it's the longer loincloth, does hinder that a bit. It goes back a decent way. We have got single jointed knees, so they go to about a right angle. We have got, oh, what do we got? We got some boot action here. So we can swivel there. We got a hinge. And we have a bit of a rocker, but not a whole lot. Kind of loose too. So standard stuff for a MOTUC Classics. Now as far as sculpt goes, the body is standard MOTUC stuff. There's really not a whole lot to talk about there. The boots are standard. Loincloth is the longer one. It's got a wash on that brown paint. We've got the silver gauntlets and silver belt with some like kind of patinaed, weathered look to it. We have got the King Grayskull emblem, which is kind of what you would see in like the 2000X line, and then the harness, and then these plugs are what you see go into the holes on the cloak, so they just peg in there, and it'll sit on his buck just like that. And then we've got that long hair, which has a little bit of a wash in there, and then it goes all the way to the back, and he's got the kind of, would you call them braids? They're not braided, but I don't know, front-facing rat tails. I'm not sure what you call those, with some wraps on them. And then he's got his King Grayskull head, which is different from He-Man. I like it. I think it's a good sculpt. It's nothing special, really. I think I prefer He-Man's head to the King Grayskull, but I like that it's different. I like that he's not just a slightly modified He-Man. It's an entirely different head. So I do like his look. So let's take a look now at his accessories. As far as accessories go, he has more than your standard MOTUC figure. At least I think it is. He's got, technically speaking, 5 different pieces. So let's start off with kind of the most boring. We've got a He-Man style shield, which is exactly the same thing that comes with the He-Man figure. We have got the halved power swords, which is part of his history, part of his bio. He's the one that breaks the sword. So these are the same kind of sword that come with He-Man. As you saw in the packaging, you can hold them in both hands. He has his own sword, which has this kind of fading blue astral type look. I absolutely love this sword. So it starts out kind of silver at the bottom, and then it gradually fades to that clear blue. So it's kind of a, it goes along with Hero's sword. So Hero has a sword that's entirely blue and kind of, you know, translucent. This one fades into that, and then, you know, He-Man obviously has the normal power sword that looks like that. Very cool. And then, as I mentioned in his bio, he transfers his power to Castle Grayskull to be guarded by the sorceress. He does so in this ball, and it's just kind of a plastic ball, glittery ball that goes with the sword, but it can go in Castle Grayskull. So this is something that they thought about when they designed Castle Grayskull, that there is a place to put this in the playset. Obviously, this came out before that, but that just shows some forethought and some afterthought on Mattel and the Four Horsemen's part. So this is going in my Castle Grayskull whenever I get around to cleaning things up around this place and get my display in order. And then one day we'll go through Castle Grayskull. That's going to be a whole deal. So he's got a lot of cool stuff. I love this sword. I think it's a great addition to the character. He holds it. He can hold it in either hand just fine. Obviously, you saw in the packaging segment that he can hold both swords. It's a tight fit. Popped his cape off. It's a tight fit, and the only thing that I really don't like in regards to the sword, and it's not really the sword, it's more the whole package, is that because of the cape, he can't really hold the sword up too high without knocking the cape off. So I think it's kind of a trade-off. So you can't really get him into a good He-Man style pose with this sword without taking it off. You can sort of get there, but not as well as I would like. All right, so overall, like I said, I really like this figure. I like the concept of King Grayskull. I like how he sort of fits into the various lines of the MOTUC story and how he works his way into canon, depending on how you look at it. I think he's a cool looking figure. I like his design. I like his sculpt. I like his accessories. I love his sword. I like his I like the flocked nature of the cape. I like the cape itself. He's got the standard MOTUC articulation, which kind of leaves some to be desired from time to time, but he's a good figure. He goes for a decent amount on the aftermarket, so he's not the easiest to get a hold of. The San Diego Comic-Con version is even harder to get, and then of course the variants of that are even harder to get because there's a bronze version, and then there's a, I think, what are there, 2 or 3 that exist of a special edition that were only given out at raffles or something at San Diego Comic-Con in 2008. So if you're going to get one, it's probably going to be this one, the reissue, and I think it's the better figure, and you know, I'm very pleased with it. So that's going to do it for this review, everyone. As always, stay tuned to Torbro. Tons more MOTUC on the way. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, the whole deal. And until next time.